your mind, lost in. Ooh, yeah.
I get this new little just for
Damn, bruh. That's
the
fucking
occasion.
dope.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
fucking
cool.
dope.
It was all the way at the
Yeah.
back of the display behind all of the normal crappy stuff. And it was
Listen,
only $26. That's the crazy thing about it. I mean, normally a nice, steamroller like that with some shape and some color, you're talking 40, $50 all day long. So,
bro,
yeah.
you're preaching to the choir. First off, everybody, welcome to Lost in the Groove. Yeah. We're back for another interview, and this time around we got Michael Storm that's about to create a real great storm here on this podcast. Can't wait. So without further ado, Michael, how are you, man?
Yeah,
How you
hello.
doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course,
I'm looking
bro.
forward to chatting with you. We've already been chatting already, and I'm enjoying the
Yeah.
conversation.
Listen, it's all about having an experience over here. It's all about what we learn, and sometimes we get lost, very lost, very lost. And well, we were talking about anarchy, being an anarchist, and I, like I said, I am a person that's a libertarian. I am conservative but left wing at the same time. I believe in tradition and family because this is just how I was raised, and it's something that I'm very true to myself. But I'm always fascinated about other people and their beliefs, and especially anarchists, because you're not the first person that I've met that have,
No.
we've talked and had conversations like this before. So, what are
Well, then
what are you?
you're one of a few then, because not that, just as we were saying just before we kicked off here, that not everybody has run into an anarchist before, or they've run into somebody who claims to be an anarchist, but their actions are quite contrary to the basic understanding of what I would consider to be an anarchist.
Okay, so in your own view, what would you say would be an anarchist that, like, we're talking about extreme anarchy, somebody that's on the extreme side, like, what would be the definition for yourself?
Well, okay, I like to look at it this way. So liberty is a straight line. And on one end is tyranny, on the other end is anarchy. Everything in between is some level of socialism or manipulation of reality. And so uh, I would call an extreme anarchist somebody who isn't all the way quite over to the right yet. And there are those anarchists that they are a poor representation of anarchy because they don't respect property, they don't respect people, and they don't respect the important part of anarchy, which is the individual, the notion of individual, and the individual being the dictator of his own reality, that he gets to make his own choices. And so we were talking about capitalism just before we got started here, and the thing about capitalism is that it sounds like this big, ooh, oh, scary, all the big businesses and government controlling it, and the money and the presses and all these things. But what capitalism really is my right, my ability to spend my money and my wealth in any way that I see fit. And so if you deny me that ability, that and there are a lot of anarchist people who call themselves anarchists who hate capitalism. And when you try to explain it to them in terms like that, and if they accept that reality, that yes, capitalism is me, is every individual getting to do what they want with their own money, with their own wealth, then if they understand that, they get that idea, and then maybe they move a little bit closer to freedom, anarchy, or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't believe it. They just don't believe it because they're trapped. They're still trapped inside a paradigm. They're still trapped inside a world where
Right.
money the money that they use on a daily basis is manipulated, but that doesn't mean that all money is manipulated, or that all money is worthless, or that things can't be done outside
Right.
that system. And one of the things that I like to try to instill in people when I talk to them about it, when they really want to get serious about having any kind of conversation, because it's hard to have a serious conversation with people these days that have differing views. I don't know if you've found this in your ventures out there talking to people or not, but
I've
yeah,
had a few.
it can be real hard to have a conversation with somebody these days, that when they don't have that, when they don't share something, where you can't keep the conversation going for value of the relationship or something like that, to get past the surface nonsense, the political stuff, the misinterpretation of ideas and of language. When you have something that you can get past those things, you can have a great conversation with people these days. But man, even family, friends, people that you've known for a long time, if they're still stuck in that false paradigm of that left right reality, that it has to be one way or another, that there's not
Right.
another choice in it all, those people can be real hard to talk to.
Well, I've I've had this theory for a while, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. What
Okay.
if extreme anarchists are what we call modern day woke people? What a person considers themselves to be woke is just a
Mm,
mask for extreme anarchists. I don't know, because it kind of
I
feels
think
that
that
way in many
there's
ways.
I think that there's probably some truth to that, and I'll tell you. So I'm 50 years old, and I have been an anarchist all my life. I didn't always know what it meant to be an anarchist, and I may have misinterpreted the sort of value of taking a non-political stance, or an extreme political stance, depending on how you want to look at it. uh, and and so I've never had to really think about it. I apparently was raised like you. I was raised in fairly conservative values in terms of how you value other people and how you value their property. When you break it down, that's what it is. You don't have to necessarily respect an individual. You don't have to be super friends with them. You don't have to be super nice to them, but you do have to respect their space and their property. And so in those terms, I was absolutely raised that way. And so an extreme anarchist to me is absolutely what you're saying. It is somebody who is woke. It's somebody who's using a title. It's somebody who has that mask on, that thinks
Wants to
they.
control parents and education and tell people how they're supposed to think and how they shouldn't. It's like telling a Christian that they should give up their values and beliefs because you're telling them to do so. It's where have we crossed this line of we cannot respect other people's beliefs, even though we may not believe in a God, but that's not your belief, it's theirs.
Why, yeah, why is it so important to us? And I get that if it's somebody that you love, somebody that you care about, and you want them to, if nothing else, understand your point of view, why you don't believe. I can see having, there's a dog in that fight, but most of these conversations that people are having, and most of these people that are telling other people what they should do with their time and their beliefs and their money and their health and just everything, are just sort of part-timer nobodies, NPCs. That's I love that term as a lifelong
NPC, I love
Dungeons
it.
and Dragons player, for that to come into the pop culture and be used in such a way. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah. We're surrounded by these NPCs, and they're vocal, but they have, just like the NPCs in the game, they have a sort of a track, an audio track, or a script, and they stick to it. They're not going to change too much, so there's not a lot of value in wasting that time. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they are part of this. There's a group in this woke crowd that some of these anarchists fit right into. So people try to get away from labels, and this was something that I started to say just before we started the show, because I think this is an important point to instill in people, is that we shouldn't sacrifice the language. We have this constant battle right now that's out in the open, that they're going through, but with the they and them and things like that. And I get it from the personal liberal person in me. Absolutely, I certainly respect it, but I also have this thing about language that it messes with the language. It makes it hard to determine when you're talking about individuals versus
Even
multiples of people,
yeah, but
unless
even
you're
more,
right in the
bro,
conversation with somebody. So it's a
bro,
little
bro.
weird, but
It's even more than that because it's weird. Look, like I said earlier, I will respect you if you respect me.
mm.
Okay? But don't force your opinions or your agendas on me. You know, the second where I start being asked the question, what are your pronouns? I'm like, do you need me to remove my pants and show you my penis to show you what my pronouns are? Like, don't ask me that question. Don't ask me. You
Well,
know
how
what I
about
mean? It's
asking me my name? I mean, you can
exactly.
just
Yeah,
call me by
please.
my name. That's okay. Yeah,
And that's
there's
fine
a
in an
big
English language.
yeah.
It's fine in
Well,
English. You can talk to somebody without using pronouns.
you can. Yeah, you may not be able to reference somebody without using program
Right.
pronouns if you don't know their name, but you can speak to somebody without it. Yeah, so it's a weird thing.
Yeah,
It's one of
very
these
weird.
again, it's these peripheral people. It's a third party thing. It's not necessarily the people that are really having the conversations that are having a trouble understanding the words, but that's the point is that we shouldn't sacrifice the language. So there are a lot of libertarians and minarchists, people who are afraid of the word anarchist when it comes down to it, and I'm all and capitalism. That's another one that the people are afraid of the word, and they say why sacrifice the language to the people who are trying to take it from us and make it into something else. So the people that would claim that anarchists or anarchy is chaos are people who would not want someone else to hear the anarchist point of view. It's
Right.
a conversation stopper.
Yeah,
You,
and it's also weird if you take like a conversation you bring up like with libertarians, a backlash is with taxes. You
mm,
know, I always get into this argument because here's the thing, there are ways to work around these things. You know, like you said, like you don't like the way the tax reform is right now. Why can't we just use it and actually do something with it? There's so much money that's being poured in this. We could build schools, we could fix roads. I mean, we could help build transportation in this country. There's so many things that we can do. Why destroy it? You know what I mean?
well, we have a system in place that should work and could work if it were actually treated like it was designed, but it's not, because that's not what happens in all of these things. Is that they're flawed, they're not perfect, they have open doors for the people who would manipulate other people to find their way in. And that's what you if you go back to the founding, the conversation about a constitution and about these rules and things for the system, it was supposed to be changing. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about our constitutional rights or the things written in the constitution for the people that needed to be altered. It was about altering the control of government and the functions of government. And unfortunately, when you give the system the ability to alter itself and change itself, you give it the ability to protect itself. And that's what we have now is a system that at best people can enter it with the hopes of doing some good for some people, sort of altruistic view of it all. But the fact is that it's not it's just it's too big. That's one of the conversations that I like to have with people
It's
because
trying to it's trying to move a mountain. See, the thing is, don't try to move a mountain.
no.
What you want to try to do is you either can build a tunnel through it, or another thing is you can take it apart layer by layer, break down into pieces. You have no more mountain. But the thing is, to break that mountain down, you know how long it would take? It would take your child and the child after that one, and the next, and the next, and the next, and so on until that mountain is completely gone.
And that's if it's all working out perfectly and everybody's
Correct.
still on the same path and still on the same idea that the mountain needs to be taken down after generation after year after generation. And that's it's exactly what I was saying, is that the government should have grown and changed with us, and it's just become too big. It's just too big. The central government has too much control. It has too much power, and the states themselves do too. They have no respect for individuals. They have no respect for individual rights, and the lot of them are there because they couldn't get a job anywhere else, because nobody would hire them for their uselessness. They are the leech class. There's this misconception that there are sort of hardworking or needy people out there that are a drain on the system, when the fact is that the system, the people, those people in the system, they're the ones that are the drain. If I don't have to if my money doesn't have to go through an intermediary or a third party that isn't responsible for what really happens with the money in the end, who knows? You get what we have here today, folks.
The the thing that cannabis and being a stoner has taught me more than anything is that when you focus on your folks, your community, the place that you live at, the people that you connect with and communicate, and just your general daily life. Like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, the government is fucked up, but look, bro, we're not going to fix it.
No. So why waste your time and your energy on it? That's what I really try to tell people. All these other conversations, all these other words, languages, definitions, ways to reach people. What I tell man, if you just want to be you and you just want to live your life, that's all my existence is about. My anarchy, uh, my activism, my weekly show, whatever it is that I do. I don't do it. I don't do any of it because I want to change someone else's mind. I just want to tell the truth as I see it and put out good information and good ideas to people, and they should want to change when they see new information and they hear good ideas and see good things happening with other people. That it should be on them, you know. Yeah. It's that
Yeah.
seed planting thing.
Yeah, it is. And one thing I like to always add is the Ramones. Okay. They were always so angry that they were never, the superstars,
Mhm.
as punk rockers. But they are the inspiration for so many punk rockers right now. So who fucking cares if they weren't the hit of 77 or 78? We got their shit now. So fucking do something about it.
It's unfortunate. It's one of the biggest topics of conversation again that I like to have with people, and that's valuing your own art and skills and thoughts and ideas, and trying to find ways to place value on them as well, not just value in them. It's okay to be you and do your thing and to paint your thing and to create your world. Again, as long as you're not forcing other people to do it, that's all there is for you. So the next step is then for you to accept that's okay. Whatever the convention is, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you realize that it's valuable to you and that others will find value in it too, and at what price point will they find that value, because it's very hard for creative people, especially when they've taken their time to follow their creative pursuits as opposed to something else like a degree in economics perhaps, to figure out, or a degree in business maybe, to figure out how to turn their passion, their love, that thing that they love about themselves the best, into a way to make money.
Right. And I mean, a great kicker in the tush is you own a comic book shop. So how'd you do that?
Stumbled back asswards into it like most things. No, I've
Damn,
been a
man.
comic I've been a comic book collector all my life. I read as a kid a little bit, and I've had some of the great comic books come through my hands. I just a
Bro,
couple of them just to show everybody.
oh,
I was
got
already
cool
showing
comic
you. You
books.
already got to see, but so this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is a later. It's a copy of the original, but it's the best copy of the original that
Like,
they did.
is it like late 90s?
Yeah, mid '90s. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So about a decade later or so. But I recently got it signed. I had
Whoa.
a number one, a real number one, a first print not too long ago. It was a $10,000 comic book that we sold in our
Damn.
store. Yeah,
Bro.
uh, that one's a couple $100, maybe 300 with Kevin's signature on it. And then I got this just not too long ago. This is a first appearance of Wolverine, Hulk 181. It's pretty beat up, but it's still, once I get it graded, it's probably still about a $4,000 book.
Come on. It's a classic.
Had it 1974, November 1974. It's almost as old as I am. And I never had one when I was a kid. This is one I never had.
Yeah.
But yeah, boy, the top end on these guys is 50, 60, $70,000.
Can you imagine just being that kid in 1974? Your dad like pulls up in his Lincoln Continental Mark V.
Mm.
I know my cars. Okay, I know my land yachts.
Love it.
Pulls up,
Love it.
throws you a quarter, and he's like, "Hey, Sonny, go buy your Hulk and Wolverine, bro."
Well, okay, they could have done that very simply because so this is one of these debated things in comic books is 181 the first appearance of Wolverine? No, it's not. 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine. He's on the last
Okay.
panel of the comic book, and they introduce him by name. There's a lot of misnomers in comic books. What that's called a cameo appearance, but if you look up the definition of cameo, and in relation to appearing on a show, a cameo appearance is a known character appearing in somebody else's work, somewhere outside of his own work, to boost the interest in the existing piece of work. That's
Promotion, basically.
yeah, and that's not it's not a cameo when the character is unknown. That's the key word. A cameo is made by somebody that you know, that when you see them on the screen, you go, "Oh, that's that guy. He's not normally on this show. He's a guest star." That's a cameo. So it's a misnomer in comic books, and it's an endless point for contention. There are a number of books that are like that. Hulk was like that. It was very serialized at the time, 1974. And so what would happen is they'd leave cliffhangers to the next book to make sure that you buy the next book. They didn't try necessarily to do a complete story in a book. They tried to
Well,
keep
they
you.
they did also. I have a few of these. I think in the late 70s they started making these novel comics. I have one from Thor. I think they
Mm.
made like four of them. They're real thick. They're like almost 100 pages.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what they did was, because I had a comic that was like prior, they did like this cameo, but it was only like one panel, like towards the end of the book. Same kind of like deal.
Yeah.
And then like when you open up the new book, like it story kind of makes more sense. Like, oh, why was that in there?
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of like proves the point even more. It's like, yeah, it is. It's a cameo.
Yeah.
100%.
It's just a funny. It's again a language thing with me that people oftentimes people just don't realize what they're saying or what they mean when they use a word. I am not a person who goes around correcting other people about
You
their
sure
language.
about that?
I don't
You
do that.
sure?
I try real hard to keep my mouth shut, and I do 99.9% of the
Okay.
time
I believe
because
you.
I hear it constantly from everybody all around me. Improper use of speech, improper use of words, improper meaning of words, and I just keep my
Uh,
mouth shut. I
listen,
just
I have one
try
of
to be a good
mine.
example.
Listen, I have one of mine already. My best friend is like that. It's okay. I have. I don't need another one. I have
No, no,
one.
I really don't do it.
I'm kidding.
It pains me. It pains me on a high functioning level. But I ignore it. I try not
Do you
to
know,
do
you
it.
want to know something? My annoying skill is I told you so, because
Mm,
I'm always the person that gives the advice of like, don't do it. I'm telling you it's a bad idea.
it's
And
not gonna work out.
every single time I
Yeah.
come back and I'm like, I told you so. They're like,
Probably a good chess player.
no, I'm terrible at chess,
No.
but I've gotten used to like, shut up, Dave. Just shut up. So, brother, I feel your pain. It's okay. I'm with you.
Yeah, well, we all have our thing, and it's
Oh
how
yeah.
it truly is in how we respond to other people. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what you think inside. It doesn't none of that this weirdness that we're going through in society right now about people feeling better about themselves through some external recognition of who they are. That's just not the way I understand reality to be. That you have to respect yourself and who you are and understand who you are, and then other people will or won't. Well, I just don't know what I don't know what people expect when they put themselves out there in in an offensive manner, in treating people in a manner that it's gaslighting.
Or
Uh,
demanding.
what's that?
You're demanding a person to accept your agenda. That's what I'm calling it. It is. It's an agenda.
And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm not even pointing any fingers at anybody. I'm not picking a
No.
particular agenda. This is just how this works. This is not this person's agenda or this group's agenda. This is agenda. This is how agenda works. This is what you do to try to manipulate other people, especially when you're in a system like ours where if you get enough of a vocal minority together, a small percentage, 3%, something like that, a very small percentage, and you can swing the political spectrum. And we've gone on this increasingly dangerous expansion of the swinging of the pendulum from one side to the other, and it's historical. If you look through history, modern history, Western world civilization history, it's repeated itself over and over again, where you get to this point and there's a fundamental breakdown in the politics because it was already fundamentally flawed to begin with. The entire notion that a small number of people, even if you call it 51% of the entire population, truly voted and had a say in what everyone else would do, it would still be 51% of people telling 49% of people what to do. And at the other extreme end of that, it's 99% think it's the right thing to do. Do we still have the moral human right to force the other 1% to change their mind or to do something different, particularly if it's something that they're doing for themselves, to themselves, at no
Right.
cost to us?
Right. Well, I look at it like this. Look at the Roman Empire. The very end of the Roman Empire was like this. They were forcing the religion on others, and they did not realize how powerful the barbarians were. They believed they were just these petty, people that lived in the village. Well, let me tell you what happened. These barbarians came with barely any weapons and horses, and they whooped the Romans' motherfucking ass so hard, they took over Rome literally in a day. They destroyed an empire in a day. Why? Well, it's simple blindness. We're when you're blinding yourself, or I like to call it closed mindedness, you're not allowing yourself to see everything that's around you, whether negative or positive. Doesn't matter.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be open to all of it. If you're closed off to any of it, then you're closed off. And that's not to say that you have to accept it, that you have to make it a part of you, that it has to change you. You just have to accept that it's real, that it's there, and that other people find value in it, or reason in it, or purpose in it, and that's okay, and you let them. But what we're experiencing right now is this gaslighting, and this this idea that all of these groups of different people with these different agendas are using the same techniques and reasons and excuses to do what they do, and it's just the same thing that everybody else is doing, but they're saying they have a right to do it, or that they have a better reason to do it. Because when you break down these actions and what people do, this is what economics is about. It's about human action. You probably know this as a libertarian. It's core to libertarian understanding is this human action, and that the reason things happen is because people want or need something. And if you understand why people want or need something, then you understand why they will act in the marketplace, and therefore you can understand why they use money for to exchange things. And it's all.
It's the same idea when, from a libertarian view of transportation. The view is, yes, we need our own cars and we need to be able to take care of things in our community and be able to work. But at the same time, there needs to be a reasonable care for everyone around us. Why should it be that this person can't deserve to be able to go to work and have the same feeling and functionality as a person that drives a car? Why should they be limited? For what reason? You know what I mean?
It's
It's
the age-old question, right? Well, it's what keeps the system working. If you look at it in terms of product and service, what you have is a service and a set of products that people need, but that they need better control over, and the only thing that offers those are a free market. And we don't. And when you have government, you have socialism, period. Government is socialism, because government at its core, if it's funded by the people involuntarily, it's a certainly insidious kind of socialism, where it's just theft. Taxation is theft. They're just taking money from everybody so that they can live, and then they're using their life to create a framework for them and themselves that is necessarily and their feelings. Oh, if they feel something good about a particular thing in society, or a group in society, they might find some way to use a little bit of political activity and a little bit of money to help them. But ultimately, all we're doing is saying, all right, well, we need roads, and we need somebody to build those roads, and we need somebody to maintain those roads. Well, government is the one to do that. And so government takes all this money for the roads, except that they don't spend most of it on the roads. They spend it on the political process of manipulating roads, or controlling roads, or putting officers on roads to find ways to rob people of more money
I
on the
have to
roads.
I have to tell you this. So I live down here in South Florida, and I drive from Fort Lauderdale to Boca every single day. Boca Raton.
Oh boy.
In Boca Raton, they have by the I-95. Okay, so just to give you an idea of they had where the highway is going this way, and then you had where people were going, back and forth on top of the highway. So they move things around now. Okay, so just to give you, if you're here, you have to go like this. If you're here, you have to go like this.
Whoa.
So they created this like almost insane triangle of
Yeah.
like extra lights, more wait times, and now it takes me additional 25 minutes more to
Just
get
because of
home
that one intersection.
just because of that one intersection.
Holy crap.
And they
That
spent they spent, you ready for this?
Hmm.
Over $255 million.
Holy crap. For a screwed up intersection. and it's where hardworking people have to go every day, right? It's not in a rich neighborhood.
No, it's where this is where most of the people are going to the corporate
Yeah,
offices like I'm going to
yeah,
every
yeah.
day.
It's the people that they're looking to rob and looking to control. I love pointing this out to people because I don't I guess most inner city people probably never notice this, and people living in suburbs that are right next to the city, so they may as well be city inner city people themselves. They're just all one big place, and that's I don't know if they get out west of town or really far north or south of town anymore, but once you get there, traffic controls change. They go from stop signs and stoplights to roundabouts. Nice, comfy little traffic stopping. Just ease right on around the circle. Everybody keeps going. No reason for the cop. Go find me a cop and a roundabout at the same time. At the same place. It's not going to fucking happen because the roundabouts are in the nice part of the neighborhood. They're all in the new places. It's all a it's just funny to watch as it goes, and so they'll come through and they'll do just like you're talking about, and they'll spend $255 million on some ridiculous intersection
It
when
makes
for a
no
couple of
sense.
$1 million they could have ripped the whole fucking thing up and put a roundabout in, and traffic keeps moving. Traffic never stops.
Yeah, Ron, they have that. I remember when I was in the UK, when I was in Manchester, I have a
Mhm.
friend out there. They have tons of roundabouts,
Yeah, yeah.
and the thing is, there's traffic, but it moves
It
more
keeps moving.
steadily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just keeps on moving. It's amazing.
Yeah, the only place that it doesn't is when you run into places where there's freaking controls, where there's stoplights and shit. Yeah.
It's so the thing about this is like this may seem like a simplistic conversation of where these are normal things we deal with every single
Mm.
day, but these are repetitive things that exist not only in our roads, they exist in our hands. They're called smartphones. They exist in our houses. They exist everywhere. It's not about acceptance. It's about, again, reality. This is the reality of living
Yeah, yeah,
in this
yeah.
society.
Yep. I before we forget, I want to get back to one point because we're smoking here, and
Yeah,
this is
bro.
about grooving and getting high. The only thing missing is sort of a Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd
I would love to play.
soundtrack, and
I'd love to play that, but I
yeah,
can't.
it'd be great, but you can't, of course, because you get freaking copyright
Copyrighted,
marks.
yeah.
You can't do that.
But I
I do it
could.
on my shows, but then I don't post most of my shows on YouTube, and then if I do, I just I clip all of that
Oh,
music as
shit,
short as I possibly
bro.
can.
Damn.
It's a
But
pain in the ass.
I
That's one of the
could.
reasons that I don't do the YouTube thing is because of the fact that I use music just like any radio show has for freaking decades and decades and decades. I use popular music, music that the host likes and likes for his people to hear as intro music. And I take, a minute or 30 seconds, a minute at most, 30 seconds generally. And I'm talking over 10 or 15 of that. So it's just this ridiculous notion that there's some copyright infringement in there. You get me started on that shit, and maybe we will. But I just wanted
Well,
to. I
I'll
wanted
tell
to
you
smoke.
this. I'll tell you this, and this is crazy. I actually have to pay monthly $15 to keep royalty free music because,
Oh,
yeah, like our intro and like the music that I use throughout the podcast is on YouTube. So I literally have to pay money.
yeah,
This is crazy. I have to
yeah,
pay money to be able to have music of any kind in my
yeah.
podcast. It's nuts.
YouTube is a weird place because they've always demanded that other people pay them money, but they've always made money off of other people's shit.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing, weirdest damn thing because they're making money off of it whether it's struck or not, as long as somebody watches it. So yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Bro.
No, I did wanna connect cannabis and the fact that I use cannabis all my life. I've been using since I was about 13 years old, every day, many, many times a day. Very rarely go without it, and I don't go insane when I do, although I much rather have it.
Same.
It's a pop culture thing. It's a eye-opening thing. I think it's helped put me where I am today in my understanding of the world and my acceptance of the world. One of the things that we talked to the great Dr. Bob about cannabinoids and the system that processes and creates it in our own bodies is that it controls our ability to accept the world around us as it is, as opposed to necessarily want to change it.
Well, the
And he, of course,
coolest.
Dr. Bob has a theory that all politicians and manipulators are
Oh,
all cannabinoid deficient.
well. So this is true. Like, carnabidiol is the carnabidiol compound. That's the chemical that exists in our bodies. The really insane part is when you talk about neurons. It's where I don't. This is what I heard from somebody that told me this. Because as cannabis smokers, we're constantly interacting with that system in our body.
Mm,
There's a different view or vision our brains see than other people.
yeah,
It's because it's constantly being activated. It's the same way, in a way, we're like cigarettes and alcohol. But the difference is that when you stop taking it, your body is okay. But
yeah.
I love that theory of, imagine though somebody that doesn't have any carnabidiol in their system at
Mm,
all.
mm.
That would mean, how could you even be creative? I don't know. Like, how could you be empathetic? How could you be compassionate? Because
Well,
that's where.
I think you see it. I think you see that a lot of people aren't. That's the bottom line. That's your answer right there. Is that a lot of people are deficient, and and this is what you get. You get people who aren't accepting of each other, who can't find the biggest the acceptance with yourself. Holy fuck!
Damn,
How
bro.
hard is that for people to accomplish today?
Yeah, it is.
Uh,
I it's it's harder also because when you're, I feel like even when you're a stoner, because the one thing that you can't be is not honest and truthful to yourself. It's so hard to lie to yourself because it's a voice is constantly repeating in your head. That paranoia, bro, it gets to you. Oh,
wasn't good
it
enough.
gets to you.
I this is this right here is the greatest invention since I don't know papers.
I
I
know.
guess.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so convenient. You don't have to. Yeah, it's nice. And if you get good, clean, quality shit, it tastes good. It gets you.
It's actually healthier than smoking, what's it called? Vape pens, the ones with nicotine
Oh yeah,
salt.
yeah, yeah.
This is a lot healthier. So if you're a person that's like addicted to vaping,
Mm.
it's not the same thing, but this is a much healthier alternative to that shit. Just
I
saying.
remember somebody asking me if I'd rather have a pack of. I used to be a smoker. I quit 15 years ago, something like that. I
Good
smoked for
for you,
20
bro.
years.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Oh, it was tough. Oh, it was one of the hardest things I ever did. And, oh, it was such a nightmare. Man, I started grinding my teeth and I broke a bunch of my teeth and shit after. It was rough. But
Went through night sweats. That was the worst.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I would wake up. I would wake up and fuck. It would be so lucid of a dream that I would be absolutely certain that I had fucking smoked. I had had cigarette, and I was, and it was so lucid. And that didn't last very late. The fucking teeth grinding thing did, and in fact, it's probably only been maybe a year ago now. That's because it didn't start right away, and then it just got progressively worse. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, and my hook and jaw would just be and not able to move it, and just sore and just fucking grinding and grinding and grinding. And it's crushed a bunch of my teeth and shit. And I only recently got it to. It was weird because I'd be consciously aware of it, and I try to make myself as I'm going to sleep, don't. Grind because it wouldn't matter. I put one of those fucking bits in or any of that. I'd just chew that motherfucker up. It was that bad. And so I just try to make myself consciously aware. All right, be aware of yourself as you're sleeping. Don't grind your teeth. And I would do it slowly, and it went around my mouth. It was really weird. So I would just sort of grind a little bit here, over here, over here, over here, and would just go around. And eventually, I got down to where I was just grinding just these two teeth right here. And just like the last 6 months or so, I
Whoa.
just got it to stop, and that's all from fucking smoking, all from smoking cigarettes. I forgot totally what the point was before I went off on that tangent, but
No,
I
bro,
love these
like
things.
no, I totally relate with you. Like I was a smoker for about 3 years. I got to a point where I was smoking like a pack and a half.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
It would have
And
been real bad. You smoked fucking 20 years like that. Shit. No, no. Yeah.
so I the problem for me was is that I went straight to nicotine, like this shit.
Oh,
S-
that was the point. Yeah, the getting off. Yes. Finding
So
another thing. That was it. Would you rather have a
yeah,
pack of 20 joints or a pack of 20, cancer sticks? Well, obviously joints, so hit me up.
I'll take joints. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, weed is 100% better for you than a cigarette is. The problem, okay, here's the big issue that that's kind of coming up is where it's like glorified. Like cannabis is like glorified now. Is it really so healing as people say it to be? I personally feel that cannabis is not going to give you some voodoo shit, and give you wings and make you cooler and better than everybody else. Nah, bruh. Like, you're the same. It's just you're stoned. I don't know. I don't know any other way of explaining it.
Well, you have to separate the two of them in reality. So I mentioned Dr. Bob earlier, and that's Dr. Bob Melamede. He's one of the foremost cannabis researchers in the nation and has been for years. And we've known for uh, decades about the endocannabinoid system within us and how our body reacts with them. And so that's why a lot of people believe that it's, excuse me, conspiracy type information. It's suppressed
Woo!
information. That's why cannabis is illegal, because it's mind opening and it helps you accept things as they are. But there's also the other side of the cannabis, and I have seen it, it's amazing what whole plant whole cannabis plant extracts can do for the human body in terms of expelling cancerous tumors and shit. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
live
you
resin.
think it's the miracle freaking cure. It's like almost.
Yeah, resin was an incredible invention that we have. I don't think there is anything like it because think about it. It's a controlled oil, like literally controlled to the point that like you can ingest this as an edible, and it's on the molecular level.
No,
So this
that's where you see it. Dude, I've watched, like my nice shiny head. You see a guy with tumors on their head, or that they have tumors in their stomach. You've done scans, that they're there,
right.
and eating the raw cannabis and just watching it's just an
Whoa.
amazing thing to see happen. And if you can, it's one of those things that if you catch cancerous tumors in an earlier stage, once you get, it's the same that they say anytime you get cancer is that the earlier you catch it the better. Well, of course it's going to be true with any natural solution as well. And so it's going to have these amazing effects, but it may not save your life if your body is already destroyed. There's a lot of people that expect a bit too much of anything, medical science, nature, prayer.
The problem also is the same thing goes with on the pharmaceutical and medical side where
Mhm.
this idea of this is a solution and will solve your problems,
Mm.
I feel is I don't know, it's wrong in many ways because you're telling somebody something that is 100% not true.
Right.
You cannot promise there I'm going to be honest, there's no such thing as a cure. I
Right.
think there is a solution to the
I
problem.
get, I absolutely get what you're saying. Yeah, speaking in terms of absolutes is a silly way to try to address real problems, because there are usually a lot of different ways that you can approach most problems. Most problems.
You sure about that?
I think so. I think so. I I'll be the first person to come along and tell you that the most successful people, the people who get along the best and can just solve things and do things around them successfully, are people who will apply the same general principles of process over and over again. But that doesn't mean that there's not other ways to do it.
No, there isn't, and it's kind of like a maze. It's so hard to be hopeful, but at the same time, what are you being hopeful for? There are so many things, little things, I like to call that, little things that are around you that you could be hopeful for. It's just putting your mind and your perspective in the right direction. Being able to like find yourself. And I'll be honest, like I've been struggling with this and I'm trying to get there, but it's not easy.
I think part of that struggle comes from that conscious effort to do it. I see it in a lot of people who want to make change in themselves faster than I'm not sure what. I'm not sure faster than what, but maybe faster than they should or faster than they're capable of. I think what it requires is, you mentioned it a couple of times already, and it's really just an attitude of just acceptance and just this is the way things are. And if you can just put yourself in that perspective, even myself as an anarchist, I don't recommend that people combat the state. I think it's a foolish notion. I think it would be ridiculous to try to fight the state. I think you have to fight back against the state when the state wrongs you. We could have that conversation someday. That's a long conversation.
Very long.
The state has been trying to take away my gun rights for, well, since I was 16 years old, and they've not been able to
What
do
state
so far.
what state are
But
you in?
what's it? I'm in Kansas, but Colorado did it to me too.
Bro, I'm in here in Florida. Out here, the law is no license. You can get whatever the fuck you want, honey. You can
Yeah.
go into a gun store right now and buy whatever you want.
Yeah, Kansas isn't too bad. You can open carry. You can open carry at the
Oh,
age of
really?
18. They're not too bad on
Okay.
stuff, but here's what happens. They don't give a shit if you carry. It's if you want to use it. If somebody assaults you and you have to pull out your pistol, whether you shoot them or not, 100,000 or more people charged in this nation every year with some variation of a felonious act of using their firearm to defend themselves from some idiot who decided to take it upon themselves to assault them.
That's the
And I'm not
point.
talking about
That's the
shooting
point.
anybody.
That's the point of owning a firearm is
Hmm.
to protect yourself from self-defense. Now, whoa.
Got a good one.
Bro. Damn. No, it's like the thing about it is that I feel that if you're a person that is respectful towards this, understands that this weapon is dangerous, and you know how to use it, you know how to use it properly. And if somebody comes up to you and is terrorizing you, you pull out your weapon that you are trained to use and you stand ground and you're protecting yourself. That's not a crime.
Shouldn't be, but it is in America. It's one of the ways that the system tries to maintain its monopoly on force. That's one of the problems with the system, is that there's a lot of times that there are incidents that are either mutual combatants or just a person, say a drunk driver driving along, runs into a tree, fucks up his car. It's his own yard even. He runs into his own goddamn tree. The state comes along, fines him thousands of dollars, locks him in a cage, tells him he can't drive anymore, does all this shit to him while he's still got to fix his fucking car and his forehead and his tree and his front lawn and all this shit. So all that really happened there, nothing changed. The state didn't stop him. from hurting himself. It didn't stop him from hurting anyone else. All it did was make a bad situation worse. It took his stupidity and his bad luck, and it made a quick buck off of it. Well, all right, yeah. So people don't look at driving drunk that way. If you hurt something, if you hurt
Well,
someone, yeah.
okay, this is one way I look at it, is because like it's just kind of a reality when you're when you're a hooker, or a prostitute or somebody that's working in the streets,
Hmm.
and the fact that a lot of these girls and sometimes guys don't have protection,
Hmm.
like they can't defend themselves. I'm like, bro, well, because this is illegal. What do you mean it's illegal? Why is it illegal? Well, you have to understand. Understand what? We fucking watch porn every fucking day. What are you talking about, bro? Like, what is this shit? It's and it's bad because some of these people are like moms. They got
Mhm.
families. They got lives and shit.
Well, I just don't understand where the cutoff is. First of all right, let's talk about the system. Let's talk about the legality of it all. Let's talk about the law. Second Amendment's pretty clear. I There are a lot of people who try to interpret it in different ways, but it's really simple. Private arms brought to bear in defense of the state. That's why the people can't be disarmed, period. For their own self defense. That's the simple explanation of that. When you break it down, that's what it is. You have to be able to defend yourself and you have to be able to have your own arms. And as far as that militia thing, if there's anybody listening that brings up that militia point of it, that's when they are part of the militia, they are organized. It has nothing to do with them controlling or organizing their personal firearms outside of the militia. There's two completely different thoughts, well explained and thought out and documented and reasoned out over the decades and decades and decades since that shit was put down on paper. And in 3,000 years before it, in the Code of Hammurabi, we all have the right as natural living human beings to fucking defend ourselves for any reason that we want to. But in a polite society of people who respect other people and their values, you're going to have incidences where people make mistakes, and on both sides of that, with people who are not armed who fuck with people that are armed and pay for it, and people who are armed who fuck with people who aren't armed, and that still goes on now, and it doesn't, and none of it's changed by any of the laws, none of it. So there's your legal perspective of the Second Amendment and where it comes from and that idea. So where did we ever get to the idea that I could carry a gun but I can't use it? I can't pull it out. It's illegal for me to pull it out. It's illegal for in the state of Colorado. All someone has to do is see me wearing my pistol on my side, as I do every single day, right there in my pocket, cross arm, every single day. All they have to do is see it and report it. You don't have to pull it out. You don't have to aim it at them. All they have to do is know that you have a pistol, and they can have you arrested by saying that it scares them. That's it. And there's so many laws like that. That's
Can they just
the
give the
point
guy
that I
a
was
teddy
getting
bear?
at is that there were so many of these individual little state laws and manipulations of our right to defend ourselves. Again, at least 100,000 people every year charged with some gun felony in relation to them ultimately trying to defend themselves from somebody who assaults them. That doesn't even count the people who actually fire the trigger. That's just the people who have a gun or pull it out.
You know, it's like one of the it's like one of the fundamentals, you know, because the idea of being able to protect yourself, when you turn at being able to have your own property. Okay. So most people know this, but this might blow your mind. Um, any of the $500,000, 1 million houses you own, guess what? Government owns your property. That's right. They own your property. So that $1 million you spent is kind of worthless because if the government decides to bulldoze your property, put something up over there, they will bulldoze your property and put something up there. Why? Well, guess what? I'm from New York. So if you know something about New York and Brooklyn, they destroyed a lot of houses to build bridges and move
Yeah.
things around all the time. So they didn't
Mhm.
care.
And they don't have to, because the reality
No.
is there's no consequence for their action.
Uh-uh.
They nobody ever pays for this shit. Every once in a while, there'll be some high profile dumbass who stepped on the wrong toes who gets hung out to dry. When the president. That was one of the things I started to bring up earlier with this pendulum thing, this swinging back and forth. If you look through history, this was the important point that I was trying to make at that time,
We're
is
high.
that
It's okay.
it gets worse. It just keeps getting progressively worse. It's a tit for tat as one side over the other tries to gain more power and more control over the system as they go along. They do this thing where they're suing each other in court and setting precedent. And right now the question is the manipulation of Donald Trump, his campaign,
Who
is that what
cares?
all of these suits are about
Who
right now?
cares?
And that's a serious question for
It,
statists. I don't give a fuck, but
I don't give a fuck either. Like the funny, you know what the funny thing is about all this shit, bro, is
mm,
this guy was, it's Donald Trump. Okay.
mhm,
We both remember when he was the cool, swag, he had a gold house. Yeah,
mm,
like he was Donald Trump. I don't give a fuck. Like
mm,
it's it's so crazy because I've been talking with like people and shit. When we talk about the presidential campaign in 2024, we're like, bro, it's gonna be Saturday Night Live.
mm,
Oh, it's gonna be
mm.
lit. Because that's what it is. It's a comedy show. They're
Yeah.
just puppets. And it's comedy. Look, I'm looking forward. I'm very excited. I heard it's gonna be a good lineup, bro.
All the actors are coming out. It's
Oh
one of
yeah.
the biggest nights in Hollywood.
Yes, it is. It's another level.
Yeah. It's a fun show. I participated 12 years ago, I guess. I played around with the Ron Paul campaign. It was kind of fun. I went to the local precinct, and I was elected by like 5 people in a fucking room to represent the entire goddamn county. So does anybody here, just somebody tell me that they see a problem with this? Me and 4 other fucking guys were about to decide who was going to be president for that entire county, of thousands of people on the Front Range, basically. And so I went and I stood out in front of the Republican convention there in downtown Denver, in a orange jumpsuit that said FEMA on the back of it, with a fucking hood over my
My
head
God.
and shackles and handcuffs. And I campaigned for Dr. Paul, with no delusion that he was going to get elected. But I thought it'd be fun to see the process from the inside. And I was almost elected to go and represent the for the Republican National Convention, the big one. It was fun.
Damn. I can just imagine that on like live television, just a man coming in there with a FEMA jacket and shackles and like, so this is live here at the National Republican Convention. There's a man standing here with shackles and a FEMA jacket. Laura, is there any more?
Yeah, that'd be a good news night. Yeah,
Bro.
I wish I would have gone. It would have been fun. Again, just to be a part of the process, just to get to see it. I have no delusion that democracy is a huge failure. The whole thing is a joke. There's the people who waste their time in politics are people who think they can get something from it, or think that they can change people or society around them to a vision of their own. And I have no interest in any of those things. I'm happy in my own little world. And you know what? My own little world rarely collides with anybody else's, as long as they don't fuck with me or my property.
Yeah.
It's simple reality. It really
Hmm.
is. Simple existence.
It's so it's so hard to come down to simple existence. It's so hard to be able to just focus because there's so many distractions. When you have
Mm,
so many distractions around you and so many things that you can get and desire, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to stabilize yourself and be able to focus. It's so distracting.
I love things. I'm a things guy. I'm a collector. I have tons of goofy stuff. Here you go.
Oh my god, I have an
Well,
R2D2.
it's pretty big if you look at the size.
Wait, I have one.
Yeah.
Wait, this is mine.
Nice. Very
Yee!
cool.
Thank
Love
you.
a good R2D2. All right. Well, if we're showing off R2D2s, give me 2 seconds.
Whoa, you got another R2? Bro, we are about to see a super cool R2D2 right now. I am
This is
absolutely
this is
blown
the
away.
second one. This is the second one of these I've owned. So you see how big this thing is.
Whoa.
He's not he's not
Whoa.
together yet, but you see he's pretty decent size, about the size of my chest. And he responds to voice commands and dances and
Oh my
yeah,
god,
I'm
that's so
dumb.
cool.
I waste money on plastic shit.
Ah, bro, it's okay. Like, look, I don't even want to talk about Star Wars because I'm so angry. I'm
Okay.
like been trying to. First off, I hate J.J. Abrams with a passion.
I get it. I get it.
Bro.
You know what? I've always tried to I kind of pride myself in this. I just try to accept entertainment for what it is. I really don't try to compare it. Even the geek stuff that I enjoy, I expect it to be different. For fuck's sake, the people who created the Incredible Hulk and the X-Men and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four are all fucking dead. They're not going to tell those stories that way anymore. And so at some point you have to just say, you know what, it's going to be different. It's not going to be what I expect. So let me change my expectations. Let me expect it to entertain me. Let me expect it to just be good for what it is and not in comparison to anything else. That said, some of these Star Wars movies really suck. Some of these Marvel movies really suck.
Yeah.
And they just bastardize the characters and beat the fuck out of them until there's just no heart left in them.
We could name a few, but no.
Did you like Solo? Did you have you seen Solo?
No, I'm not going
You
to.
gotta see Solo. If you liked the original Star Wars for its cowboy space adventure cantina existence, that's what Solo is. It's a cowboy in space
Well,
adventure.
I really liked Rogue One. Rogue One
Mm-hmm.
was a masterpiece because it was very George Lucas esque. It was very true to what Star Wars was. And it did a twist where it's like, we're not just a sci fi saga, we're not just happy endings.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did that with Jedi. So they'd already set a or with Empire, so they'd already set a precedent for that. But they took it to a whole new level with that. And but they didn't have a choice because that's one of those stories that was already told. We already knew that all the Bothans had to die.
Yeah, but it's more than that. The way that they could have made that movie a million different ways. But the way that they made that movie, it just made everyone happy. It
Yeah.
was what you would expect Rogue One to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the best of the Disney movies. I think Solo is the second best one,
I
and
have to
if
watch it
you
now.
don't have a reference point, you have to
I have to
make
watch
it a
it.
point to see it. I think if you're a Star Wars geek at all and you know anything, and believe it or not, even owning comic book shop and having a lot of this stuff, I can't hold the best conversations with the top geeks on this shit
I'm
because
not
I don't give
either.
that.
I'm just a fan. I'm
Yeah,
just a
that's
fan of the
me, right, I'm a
Yeah.
fan, I just wanna be entertained. Yeah,
Yes.
and I absorb everything that I see 50 fucking times, and I've seen Star Wars at least that, you know? So, I'm bound to absorb something out of it. No, I've peripherally enjoyed it. I have a lot of the comic books. I have a number 1 from '77. graded and signed by Howard Shakin. It's remarked. It's got a little Darth Vader. I did that one's at the shop right now. It's got a little Darth Vader drawn on it, which he didn't do a very good job. I was kind of pissed about that. Howard Shakin,
Damn.
you fucking ruined my Star Wars #1, my favorite goddamn comic book. If he sees this, if you see this, you son of a bitch, you owe me a comic book. And it's because he
Bastard.
doesn't like it. He hates it. He didn't get paid a whole bunch of money to draw Darth Vader and all those guys back in those days. And so apparently, anytime he sees one of these books, he's kind of grumpy about it.
Okay, you want to complain? Let's talk about the people that created the costume. Nobody talks about this,
Hmm.
but the people that created the costumes and setups of the original Star Wars, like A New Hope, okay, they got paid like shit. Okay, like shit. We're talking bad, and everybody's like, la la la, New Hope. It's all great, but these poor motherfuckers. I mean, first of all, the work was fantastic.
Hmm.
Like that's what I loved about the original Star Wars was they just took random crap.
Just opened fucking model kit after model kit after model kit and started gluing shit together.
Together, yeah, like just spray painting it black
Yep.
and just putting Velcro here and that was it. Like even lightsabers. You think lightsabers are so fucking cool? Okay, I remember they were talking about like they use like a rod, a transmission belt or something, and they're like glued on, and I'm like, bro, I could have just fucking made one in my house instead of spending $300 on this website.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
that's the funny thing about it is all the guys that are making these things, they're just buying plumbing parts too. You could go over to Home Depot and buy the parts from the plumbing section and build yourself a fucking lightsaber too. Now, the electronics and stuff like that might be a little more complicated, a little more
Yeah.
difficult, but those little decorative ones, you could always make your own. That's how they all got started.
Yeah, but you can't. Okay, so the problem with a lightsaber is, physically speaking, it's impossible. You because a laser beam,
Can't
it-
really contain it.
no, it's
Yeah.
indefinite. You
Yeah.
can't contain it. So
Well,
yeah,
that's one of the things in the geekdom that they talk about. That's the laser, the shots, the pew pew, the laser guns,
they don't make those
and
sounds.
I think it's universally understood whether anybody has really come out and said so or not, whether they even thought about the technology or what it would be at the time, but that they're ultimately energy bolts, not laser bolts, that they are things that will dissipate and not something that would just keep going and going and going until
Well, they work via energy source. So the thing about using these in space, I'll be honest,
mm,
Star Trek kind
tough
of
to
Star Trek kind of does this a little bit better because
yes.
the way that it works is it does by heat signatures.
Yeah.
So when they're shooting out their whatever energy beams, they have to have targets. So this is what I always loved hearing is like them shooting like, oh, position this to that ship, yada yada
Mhm.
yada, come in there. And that is a more realistic approach and makes a lot more sense because they
Well, one of
eventually
the
will,
things
yeah.
that they were a little bit clear about, at least in some of the weaponry in Star Trek, was that it was physical. They're
Yeah.
not very clear about that in the Star Wars. Some of them are. Obviously, you see some of the the bombs that have been dropped from different ships, like Boba Fett's ship and things like that. They've dropped some different ordnance over the movies. Just strictly speaking, in the movies, in the fucking comic books and the books, the written books, they've gone through all this shit. I'm
Well, it's
sure.
crazy because like with the comic book series, you have so many different things. Like there's one that's the Oracle of like Yoda. That series, it's really cool. It like goes through that whole origin. Then
Hmm.
there's the Star Wars series we're talking about. Like, how many wars there was? Like one through
How many
the original,
volumes
the
or
original. No, the original series, the original
oh
Star
the
Wars.
original Star Wars run of comic books was 107 issues in the series with 4 additional uh, Return of the Jedi books. No, 3 Return of the Jedi books and 3 annuals. And so, 130 13 books total.
Jesus.
Yeah,
It was really
it was a
popular.
pretty good run, and Marvel's on us on the third volume now. So they did a second volume in 2015 when they got the property back, and then they did another run. Started here just a couple years back. They're up to number 35 now, I think. I think that's the one I just picked up
I mean, it's kind of
because I get them all. I get all the Star Wars comic books.
well, it's kind of crazy because they people don't like remember this, but Marvel and DC were going like out of business
Yeah, yeah.
in the 90s, and it's kind of funny like Marvel kind of only survived because of Disney.
Yeah. Well, in the end, what they did is they ended up selling off their two biggest properties, which were the X Men and Spider Man, and that's why we've had the different Spider Man and X Men movies, and why there's been this hard attempt to integrate the original Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire movies, and the Hugh Jackman X-Men movies, those into the MCU because they're not part of the MCU. They're Sony and Fox because they bought the movie right. That's what kept Marvel alive through the 90s and into the 2000s, and then they were bought off. They were bought up by
But those
Disney.
movies were great. I love like the
Yeah.
X-File movies. Oh, they're so good. And I think the biggest problem I'll tell you, like especially like as a comic book lover, like I love like the '90s series of X-Men Files. It's more dark in a
Sorry, it's my
way.
wife.
That's all right. I feel like they were more dark, and it was more dramatic and more like chaos that was going on. So when the movie started coming out, you kind of had more of that type of story. The problem, this is just my opinion. The problem is I feel if Disney got involved, they would just dull everything down. I feel,
I'll tell you exactly what happens. I might even be able to show you. Yeah.
oh,
Well,
bro.
maybe not. It might be too much to go through. I have comic books surrounding me. You can't see them. Okay, so there is a hugely popular series right now that's running through all of the major Marvel titles. Maybe not all of them. A lot of them. Daredevil's done one. Wolverine has done one. There's a bunch of other ones too, and I just can't think of them all off the top of my head. I think
Okay.
Elektra did one. There's a Moon Knight one. It's called Black, White, and Blood. So, all right. So Marvel is owned by Disney, but Marvel it still has its sort of own identity and is separate from the Disney stuff. Well, Disney bought out the Star Wars properties and took control of all the Star Wars properties, and there's no blood in Star Wars. There's no blood in Star Wars. So if you go back and you look, there's no blood on it because they're cutting at people, they're waving their sword around, but they're never cutting anybody. And this is on the comic books. So you'd have to go back through them and look at them.
Wait,
So
how
they
long has
got
this been?
into the
How
what's
long
that?
is this? How long has this been going on?
Well, since Disney owned the property. Yeah. Yeah, the whole time. It's different in their movies, but on the comic books, they have this weird thing where they're never cutting anybody or killing anybody necessarily, and so where it shows is in this Black, White, and Blood series. They got Darth Vader in on it, and his series is called Black, White, and Red. The books are in black, white, and red. They're black and white with red highlights, and that's the blood, and it's the blood being highlighted in these other books. They're more adult oriented, not adult like sexual content, but adult, imagery, violence, that kind of thing. That's black, white, and blood. It's a black and white
Okay.
comic book,
Okay.
and all the
So so
blood.
so so let me go back for a second.
Yeah,
Disney is making this. Is this correct?
yeah, yeah. It's a
Okay.
Disney
So
thing. Yeah.
Disney, the woke now
Yeah.
inclusive
Oh
diversity
God.
company
Oh
is
God.
is making this comic book. I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and fundamentally changing the notion of it, yes,
Oh,
because the
okay.
whole notion of it is black and white pages with red blood showing, and that's the black, white, and blood, and they changed it. All my Star Wars stuff is out there.
That's a great. That's definitely the best way of showing your inclusiveness and love for
Mm.
human compassion is emphasizing the red, emphasizing the blood. Kind of reminds me of fascist Nazi propaganda.
You got to watch out for those fascists and those Nazis. They're everywhere,
They're
man.
everywhere.
They're everywhere. They're in our art. They're in our movies. They're everywhere. They're in our politics. They're in our streets. And some of them don't even know it. It's scary. They don't understand themselves, like you were talking about earlier, man. They don't know themselves. They don't know. They don't know the. They don't know themselves, so they don't can't possibly know or understand the world around them or other people.
Why should they? That's what they. It's. I ask myself that question. Why should I?
Okay.
And you find yourself in this trap because you can either choose to hold onto the rope of other people's opinions and beliefs,
Mm,
or you can make your own.
nice.
The thing is when you make your own, sometimes you don't know how.
Can be
You, f-
tough.
yeah, you fuck up. Sometimes it doesn't work. It rips, breaks. You have to figure your way around it. It's just, again, you get to make the choice. You as a person. Nobody else can tell you what else to do. Like, I don't know.
I, that's the heart of anarchy. It's the heart of libertarianism. Do you know your history? Are you a little L libertarian or an actual big L libertarian? Do you vote libertarian or do you just choose a political stand,
No, 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 no,
libertarian
no.
stance?
I'm not libertarian political. I'm
Okay.
libertarian. I'm
So
a
you're little L libertarian, as
Yeah,
we
I
like
know
to
I know
say, which
some
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just to distinguish you from a sort of card carrying member of the
No, no, no,
party.
no, 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 no.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
libertarian belief, I am apolitical. I will vote for Mickey Mouse, either Mickey Mouse or
Disney knows how to run a pretty good business most of the
yeah.
time. Sometimes they fuck up. Sometimes they make the wrong decisions.
Listen, I'll vote for him.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I know I've written in Mickey Mouse before on a many a ballot. Why not? Who
Why not?
cares?
Who
Vote
cares?
no on all the to retain all the judges. Vote no on all of their fucking ordinances and shit like that. There's nothing wrong with voting. It's just useless. It's statistically a fucking pointless thing to do. I have a good example of it right here. I'm in Kansas, and so right down the road from me, a little ways, is a itty bitty little town with 100 people in it. And in the last voting cycle, they literally had a thing pass 51-49. There you go. At the best, that's the best you get out of it. That's the best. 51 of those people were telling 49 other people how their tax dollars were going to be spent and what it was going to be spent on. Literally. So, a really good
Whoa.
example of democracy.
So do you like live in a rural town in
No,
Kansas?
I'm in Topeka, Kansas.
Okay, so you're in a
It's
big
a big
town.
city. Yeah. Relative to being a Kansas town at all, there's only one metropolitan city, and that's Kansas City. All the other cities are small cities, a few 100,000 people, that kind of thing, at
Okay.
most. Yeah. Yeah. So when I say city, yeah, it's a city. It's there's things, but there's no big buildings or anything like that around me. I was born and raised in Denver, spent most of my life there.
So you're from Colorado.
Yeah,
What brought
so
you
I
to
know what a big
Kansas?
building is. And I know what a small town is. I know what a big town is. I know the difference. It's all right. Now, no, it's not. I hate Topeka. It's a fucking shithole. It really is. It's a political shithole and it's a criminal shithole, and which is understandable because it is a place where you can carry a gun, but you can't pull it out. Can't use it.
What brought you to Kansas?
Wife's family. They were getting older. And they're from here. Wife's from here. I came to Kansas initially in the mid '90s to go to college. I went to a little college called Colby, and then I went to K State for a while and worked in radio. and I met my wife at K State. And so her family's from here, she's from here, and they got older, as people do. Don't get
Yeah.
around as well so much anymore. So we came here so they could see the grandkids and eh, just life. So yeah, when I say that it's a shithole and I don't like it, it's a fact. But I'm here because it's what needs to be done. That's what we do. I would love to go back to Colorado, but then I remember this. So I'm from Colorado, and Colorado used to be a good individual freedom kind of state, and a individual gun rights supporting state. But like all of them, it's fallen victim to socialism. Everything, the whole system is corrupt with socialism because government is socialism. Government takes wealth from one group of people and transfers it first to themselves, and then it trickles a little bit down to someone else, some other people, some constituents, some small group of vocal people who make enough of a showing that their group gets to claim some of the ill-gotten gains.
Right. And even more to that, it's just understanding that if you want to make a change, you make a change with yourself first. Make that your main focus. Don't
Good
try
old
to.
Michael Jackson. You
Mhm.
gotta love it. I'm gonna make a change, and he's gonna start with himself. Whatever you gotta say about him and all the other political and social things surrounding him. Great message in some of that music,
I
and
just
who.
look at the music. I don't care, like even doesn't matter. It's good music.
Well, man, this is one of these things again that I talk to people about a lot because I try to stress in them, please, please. I remember the shirt, the "Kill Your Idols" T-shirt.
Oh, please.
Yeah, and that's just it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful idea because it's an internal idea. It's killing that idol in your mind, getting rid of that person, and just accepting their art for what it is, whether it's a song, whether it's a movie or a television show or a comic book. Man, people are fucking flawed, dude. People are flawed. They fuck up. They make mistakes. They do stupid shit all the time. They hurt other people. They hurt themselves. It's what people do. Turning that into a reason to, one, give somebody space in your mind at all, and concerned about the things that they're doing to themselves and other people that isn't about you, it is complete. It just nonsense, complete utter foolishness. It's an exercise in futility. The it is all about who you are and what you project to other people. And the more that you can understand about yourself, but not get caught too much up in your head. This is the thing we were talking about earlier when I said that I think it's a symptom of trying to improve yourself, and that's trying to over improve yourself or give yourself a direction of improvement, as opposed to just, as we've been talking about the whole time, accepting reality, accepting things and people for who they are. And once you really truly do that, you will free yourself from any expectation from them upon you, or on you upon them, from you upon them. Either way, you free yourself. It's the same notion of keeping a slave makes you a slave. So you're
Right.
having to manage the slave and what they do, and keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't fuck up, and make sure he doesn't steal from you and run away. And so you're wasting all this time that you could be spending doing some other bullshit, spending your money on, if you pay somebody else to do it, whatever it is, managing this person, instead of a great, wonderful, voluntary anarchist relationship between you where you both succeed. You're chaining yourself down. You're committing yourself to being something in advance of who you are tomorrow, when you're not there yet. You're not there
Mhm.
yet at all.
Yeah. Damn. Bro.
That's what this is all about, right? These are these
Yeah.
conversations, right?
Yeah, listen, it's all about having a conversation. It's all about learning from the other person and also being able to find your own truth. You know, we're each here to inspire one another.
That's
So
it.
let
I
me
like
ask
that.
let me ask you something, bro. Where can people find you? Like where can they find your shit? Where can
Mm.
they check you out? On the
Man, I hope
socials?
people do come looking. I do some interesting things. I talk with different people just like yourself. It's just radio, but it's live every week. So that's really cool. It's Toward Anarchy, and basically you can find me just about anywhere. You type Toward Anarchy in a browser, 99 out of 100 times you're going to get to me. You'll find me. That's where I'm at on social media, at Toward Anarchy, definitely on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, man, it'd be great if somebody reached out and shouted out and said, "Hi, I heard you on the show." That'd be awesome. Because
Ooh.
people forget about these connections. I try to remind people every week on the show: like, share, follow, subscribe to the things that you think are important. Because no matter, even if you can't give us a dime, if you can't kick in to help us pay for the podcast
Just a
and the
little
airtime and
support.
all this shit, it's all good. Give us a fucking like, man. Give us a share. Any of that. That's so much more important right now these days than even a dollar. Because I'm gonna keep doing this shit for free. I as long as I have a microphone and an internet connection, you will find a motherfucker called Toward Anarchy.
Fuck yeah.
Nobody's gonna stop. Nobody's gonna stop this voice.
Fucking love that. And yeah, seriously, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out Michael's incredible work. And check out Toward Anarchy. Oh my god, fucking A. Sometimes you just need to be able to just listen. Just not say shit. But with that, if you want to check out more of the podcast, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, we'll catch you on the next one. Stay groovy, my friends. We love you all. Stop being dangerous. Be fearless. Bye.
Thank you, sir.